On June 21, 1958, the Green Hornet streetcar, numbered 7213, started its trip from Clark and Kinsey at 5:10 a.m. For the next hour, as many as 100 rail fans rode the car to its destination at the 77th Street station. It was the final streetcar to run in Chicago. Chicago once boasted the largest street railway system in the world under one management. But with that final car, a history of 99 years of street railways in Chicago ended. And yet, more than 50 years later, many Chicagoans still have fond memories of the streetcars.
I'm Roy Benedict. As we're filming this in 2008, I'm 66. I grew up as a small boy on the south side of Chicago in the 1940s. The family lived on 67th Street, which was a car line street.
I'm Ray DeGroot. I'm 77 years old now, and I think I first got interested in streetcars at the early age of even 5 or 6.
Bob Heinlein. I grew up on the northwest side of Chicago, near the corner of Montrose and Elston. In fact, my back porch faced towards the Elston streetcar line. And I am now 70 years old.
I'm Dick Lucan. I'm 74. And I used to ride the streetcars. Of course, we never had an automobile. And as a result, we went everywhere. And having lived on the south side, none of our relatives or friends who lived on the north side ever wanted to come visit us, so we always had to take the streetcars to go visit them on the north side.
My name is George Canary. Well, I was born in 1937, so I was 70 as of last November. I don't always feel that I'm 70 years old, but the mirror doesn't lie.
Yeah, I'm Ken Spengler. I'm 69 years old, and I grew up in Chicago. We lived on the northwest side. Originally, we lived on the corner of Fullerton and Costin.
My name is Jeff Wayne. I'm 66 at the end of March of 2008. I grew up in my first 9 years in an area called Kenwood on the south side of Chicago. In the area of 48th and Woodlawn.
My name is Jim Winmeyer, 68 years old. I grew up in the Logan Square area of Chicago.
For a number of years at the end of the 19th and the beginning of the 20th century, city politicians clamored for the consolidation of the various streetcar companies into one operation. By 1909, Chicago Railways had consolidated operations on the north and west sides of the city, but the south and east sides were still operated by 3 companies. In 1908, the properties of the Calumet and South Chicago Railway were acquired under an operating agreement by the Chicago City Railway. In 1909, Chicago City Railway acquired the properties of the Southern Street Railway under a similar operating agreement. By the end of 1909, the Chicago City Railway controlled the streetcar operations from the loop south and east to the city limits. After much political wrangling, the Chicago City Council adopted the Traction Unification Ordinance on November 13, 1913, which took effect on February 1, 1914. At that time, the properties of the Chicago Railways Company, Chicago City Railway, Calumet and South Chicago Railway, and the Southern Street Railway were consolidated under the moniker Chicago Surface Lines. Under CSL's operation, the mileage of trackage and the number of cars grew to become the largest system under one management. However, CSL was not without competition. During the early 20th century, private automobile ownership grew especially after the 1908 introduction of Ford's Model T. Even though many city streets were unsuitable for automobiles, personal ownership rose. CSL was in competition with Chicago Rapid Transit, which ran the elevated system, and Chicago Motor Coach, which ran buses on streets that were considered, by the city, to be unsuitable for streetcars, such as the boulevard system. CSL also faced financial pressure, with fares limited by the city, high maintenance costs of the streets where streetcars ran, and extremely high taxes on car fare revenue. Despite a steady ridership, but with the economic distress of the Great Depression sinking in, CSL's 4 underlying companies went bankrupt in 1932 and were placed under a court-appointed receivership. The operations of the Chicago surface lines continued under this receivership through September 30, 1947. On October 1, 1947, the operations of the Chicago surface lines were acquired by the Chicago Transit Authority. The CTA also acquired the properties of the Chicago Rapid Transit Company, which was also operating under receivership. CTA's acquisitions brought Chicago's transit services under a unified operation, with the exception of Chicago Motor Coach, which was acquired on October 1, 1952.